You want the real story? Here goes, straight up, no sugarcoating. Because if you'd told me even a year ago that my in-laws would throw me and my 3 kids out in the rain less than a week after my husband's funeral, I would have laughed in your face. But yeah, that happened. That storm came down hard, the sky all swollen and bruised over the Vermont hills, and there I was, hands locked on the wheel of my old Toyota, watching everything I owned get tossed into muddy puddles by people who'd hug me at my wedding. Kids' books, Samuel's grandmother's blanket, even my favorite teapot. All of it ruined in the blink of an eye. My triplets, Clara, James, and Rosalind, crammed together in the back seat under some scratchy blanket, still smelling like baby shampoo, watching wide-eyed and silent. Not sure if this was a bad dream or just how life was now. Clara's voice, "Mommy, why is Grandma throwing our teddy bears in the water?" I'll never forget it. I just stared straight ahead, biting back tears, because what was I going to say? The truth? That some people only show you their love until it's inconvenient? The Duval house was supposed to be ours, Samuel promised. Forever starts here, he'd said, not knowing forever only meant 3 days past his own funeral. So, for anyone listening who thinks bad luck comes in threes, let me tell you, sometimes it comes in hurricanes. Samuel's mother, Beatrice, she stood on that porch, pearls flashing in the porch light, sipping chamomile tea like the queen of ice. Her son just buried, but she had no tears for me. You have 1 hour. This house belongs to the Duval family. You were never really one of us. Cold, like the wind that cut through my coat, like Victor, Samuel's brother, standing next to her. Spotless as ever, not a drop of rain on him. Just that look that told me I'd always been an outsider. You all know why you married my brother, Victor said. And there's nothing left. Hospital bills. Specialists, they took it all. I almost believed him. Almost. Samuel swore we'd be taken care of, the Triplets trust funds ironclad. But as the rain soaked through to my bones, and my children sobbed for a father they'd barely gotten to know, I realized there was more going on than I'd ever understood. Samuel had been distant those last months, secretive, locking his office, whispering about a box in Lawrence's study. I thought he was out of his mind, doped up on morphine. I should have paid attention. 2 weeks later, broke and exhausted, I found myself in a dingy apartment above an old bakery in Burlington, sharing a single pull-out couch with my 3 kids. There was still a hint of sugar in the floorboards, but mostly it smelled like wet laundry and defeat. The radiator rattled like it was angry at the world. I sold my wedding ring for next to nothing. The gold band that once meant hope, now just enough to cover rent for another month. Let me back up SEC. Samuel didn't come from nothing. The Duvals had money, old money, orchards, land, a kind of privilege you don't really see unless you're standing outside it. I met him at the ER. He was there, visiting his dad. I was dead on my feet, running on caffeine and pure grit. When he handed me a coffee, no strings, just kindness. We laughed over pancakes at a crappy diner. He listened, really listened, and for once in my life, I felt seen. We married under the beech trees behind the Duval estate. It should have been a fairy tale, but fairy tales end. After Samuel's diagnosis, things shifted, late-night calls, mysterious men in suits, doors closed to me. He kept saying he was handling things, but the more he hid, the more I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. Lawrence Caton, his old friend, stopped coming around. After Samuel died, he didn't return my calls. It was like everyone who mattered disappeared. One night, the kids asleep, my phone buzzed and unknown number. Evelyn, it's Lawrence. There are things about Samuel you need to know. Meet me tonight. And don't tell anyone you're coming. My heart just about jumped out of my chest, but I went. The office was warm, the fire going, but Lawrence looked older, tired, not the jokester I remembered. He handed me a leather portfolio and a brass key. Samuel made me wait 30 days before contacting you. He wanted you safe. Safe from his family. He showed me bank statements, millions, real estate, investments, patents, assets I never knew about, all in my name. Offshore accounts, too. Samuel didn't trust the people closest to him. He wanted them to believe you had nothing, so they'd leave you alone. And just like that, everything changed. Suddenly, I wasn't just fighting to keep a roof over our heads. I had ammunition, a way to protect my kids, and maybe even take back what they tried to steal. I learned fast. Set up accounts under a new name, moved quietly. Got a job at the Champlain Trust. Met people who could help me move assets without the Duvals noticing. But you can't hide from sharks forever. One rainy afternoon, Beatrice rolled up in her silver Jaguar. Her voice syrupy with fake concern. People talk, Evelyn. You'd be wise to leave Burlington. I stared her down. Funny, I was thinking the same thing. But the real turning point came in a bank vault in Montreal. That brass key unlocked a black case. Inside, a ledger in Samuel's handwriting, and an envelope of photos and a USB drive labeled, "If they come for you." Blackmail material, photos of Victor cheating, Beatrice bribing officials, audio of them plotting to take my kids. It wasn't just money Samuel left me. It was leverage. The next weeks were a blur of planning, selling a Vermont cabin under one of Samuel's shell companies to test if the Duvals were watching. They were. Victor's texts, dark sedans outside my building, threats slid under my door, classic intimidation tactics. I didn't flinch. Instead, I dug deeper, found a shipyard and a yacht in Nova Scotia, both in my name. The yacht's name? Rosalind. For my daughter. Samuel was always 3 steps ahead. Then the Duvals made their move, filed for guardianship, trying to paint me as unfit. Court papers delivered by courier, language sharp as glass. But I was ready. School records, neighbor statements, pediatrician letters. I had a file for every angle. My attorney, Mary Ann, was a shark in heels. They think they can drag you through the mud until you break. We'll make every step splash right back on them. The courtroom was a battlefield. The Duvals tried to paint me as unstable, reckless with money. We tore down every lie. Mrs. Hanley, my neighbor, testified how they'd thrown us out in the cold. Every attempt to rattle me backfired. When Victor tried to corner me on the stand, we hit back with certified documents, property records, bank statements. Then, when they pushed the financial angle, we unleashed the Halifax evidence. Certified records, witness statements from the bank, a clear trail of money showing their intent to defraud. The judge saw through their act. He called out their lack of transparency, denied their petition, and granted me full custody, with a little supervised visitation for them, just enough to keep them at bay. When I left that courthouse, the cold air hit different. I wasn't running anymore. I was going home. That night, the kids piled onto me, laughing, yelling, "We're going home, Mommy." It wasn't a mansion, but it was ours, warm, safe, and finally free from the Duval shadow. I kept the brass key, not for the money, but as a reminder of what it cost to fight for the people you love. For months, the world only saw a tired widow, barely scraping by, but underneath, I built a fortress out of truth and grit. And if you're wondering how justice really feels, it isn't fireworks or parades. It's sitting in a sunlit kitchen, your kids' laughter echoing off the walls, and knowing no one can ever take that away again. Sometimes, the battle you never wanted is the one that shows you exactly who you are. So, you made it to the end. Tell me, where do you stand? Who was right? Who was wrong? And what would you have done in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own stories of family, betrayal, or finding home again. I want to know, because if you think this was wild, just wait for the next story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.